Hey guys, welcome back for another video. This is going to be kind of an advanced video on tuning with REW with the addition of EQ settings. Now I've got two SVS subs here, a PC4000 and a PB4000, both essentially the same sub, just a different cabinet. And I'm at the point, for the purposes of this demo, of having them physically measured and physically placed correctly in the room to get the best response in the room, just using physical placement of the subs and the listening position. I've also gone ahead and done proper room treatments acoustically. I have 7 4-foot by 2-foot absorption panels, 4 of which also have slight diffusion, and I also have 8 feet of corner 4-inch thick bass trappings, and I did those one step at a time to address specific problems in the room. So physically, I've done everything to the point where diminishing returns are kicking in, but the important part is the subs are positioned and measured with REW to be in their proper position. So what I'm going to show you today is just a few of the settings in here that we will be using: the parametric EQs, the overall volume level, and then most importantly, something cool here, the port tuning. Now, there are a lot of videos out there that show the differences between the port tuning, but I'm going to show you how you use port tuning to actually tune the subs and get your response flat. So we're here in REW. This is the measurement software. It's free. The only thing you need to use it is a basic laptop and a calibration microphone that's under $100. The link is down below. Absolutely everybody that is running subwoofers, even just one in a home theater, or just 2-channel plus a sub stereo, needs to do this. You have no idea what's going on in your system until you measure. You can't do this by ear. You just can't. Your brain will trick you into thinking it's great, and frankly, you won't know what's great sound until you see it and then can put it to your mind for what it actually sounds like. Now I'm going to do a first measurement here just with the PB4000 on, so I've got the PC4000 turned off, and we're just going to run a check. This is in standard mode, all ports open, so ported, and this should give us the best overall volume, but just from one sub, so no benefits of going dual, and we'll see how the curve looks. I'm not really concerned about the levels at this point, and this whole video is going to be more about what does the response look like as far as flatness rather than how much. Okay, all SPL. Now I take my sub readings with no smoothing. It's very important. You'll see a lot of videos and tutorials out there, and they're applying 1/6 or even worse, psychoacoustic smoothing, and it makes everything look oh so pretty. Wow, what a great response. No, it's not that great. So no smoothing, don't fool yourself, just work on the problems one by one. So the crossover point in the receiver is set to 80. That's right here where the cursor is. This dip right here is actually partially the room, but partially the crossover on the speakers. I'm running 4-way LSIM 707s, and one of the crossover points is at 100 and another is at 300, and they both have these little dips here, but they are very steep. You really don't hear them. Again, this is with zero smoothing, so don't pay much attention to those kinds of things when you see them and they're very close together. What you're looking for are larger scoops like this. This dip here is something you would want to correct for, and these peaks here are things that you want to correct for. So now I'm going to turn on the PC4000 and we'll run another sweep, both of them set identically, and we'll just see what the difference of adding another sub to the room does to help even out this curve. Again, not looking for the volume output, just trying to get this flat between 80 and all the way to the left. All right, now like I said, I already physically placed these, so they are very good on their own. And as we can see, it got a little flatter, not a whole lot, but we're at the point where we're at the limit of physical placement, so we need the help of electronics. We can see that it flattened out a little bit here in the upper bass. This gap, the difference between the two, is much smaller than down here. and that's pretty much to be expected. But we can see that we did get some lower extension, and that's good. And then everything evens out above the crossover point. None of this is affected by turning on the subs. Little variations like this is just run to run. When you're actually doing measurements, I suggest doing at least 3. And you can hit this average the responses down here. And that just rules out any glitches with the recording, or if there was a noise in the room, you know, stuff like that. Don't worry about that. So this is now with 2 subs on, and you can see that I've got them at pretty much the correct level to match with the rest of the system. So it's producing a nice flat, even response. That's what I suggest doing just for the initial tuning. After you get that leveled out as much as you can, then you can apply what's called a house curve, which is setting it to personal preference. A lot of people are going to enjoy a slight up curve in the lower end extension of the bass. And I end up doing that. I go from about the crossover point and just gently slope up and end up somewhere, hopefully about 10 decibels more at the lower end than the higher end. It just sounds a lot better to your ear. But for testing and setup, try to get it as flat as possible. So what can we do from here? Let's go ahead and turn off that single result. This is what we're working with 2 subs, the room treated and physically set up, both in standard mode. All the parametric EQs are turned off, so this is just straight mechanical sound, but we want to get it flatter. Each one of these lines is 5 decibels. Ideally, you want the response of everything between these 2 lines, as tight as possible, but definitely between 2 lines. We can see here we have a 10 decibel difference between this peak and this null, actually about 11. That's twice the volume level. So every 2 of these lines is twice the volume level, to give you a sense of scale. So you really want to knock these down, this whole upper bass area here, and we want to bring this up. We want to fill in this gap. Doesn't really matter what you average to. You can bring everything down to here, you can bring everything up to here. It's easier to bring things down, but it really depends on what kind of curve you're looking at. So I'm going to fill in this area and knock this area down and knock this area down. Now, inside your AVR or processor, you probably have, if it's anything modern, some degree of EQing available for the subchannel. You may only have 1 band available, you may have up to 4. It depends on your hardware. But no matter what you have, it's going to be fairly limited compared to using the parametric EQ in SVS or using a third-party box like Mini DSP, which goes in between the sub or subs and your processor to give you full EQ control. And this REW software can tell you exactly what to set. And you can either do it manually, or you can just save a file and feed it right into the Mini DSP. Or, like I'm going to show you, you do it manually with the SVS app and sub control. Okay, so typically to fix those areas, you go right into the parametric EQ. And again, if you don't have REW and you're not measuring, you have no idea what you're doing in here. Don't even bother. You could very easily make things a lot worse and have no idea, because you can't do this by ear. So I'm going to turn all these on. I've already set them. I know what they should be. Now here's the thing. These EQ controls sometimes work a lot better in one mode versus the other, and it depends on what's causing this issue. If it's a room problem, if it's just a buildup of energy from the ports, sometimes not much you do with the parametric EQ is going to make a difference. So let's do another run here with all those EQs on, and we'll see what it did. So it began to help. It certainly began to help. We came up a little bit here and got a little worse down right in the midsection, and it started to pull stuff down. It made a pretty good difference here, about 62 hertz, and then not much above 80, of course, because that's the crossover. So that didn't really work, and those were pretty extreme EQs. Those should have pulled these way down. We were budgeting to pull it down somewhere around here. But because we're in ported mode, standard mode, and I know that these are a room problem, these are standing waves, we're at the limit. So what can we do? Well, we can go to another mode. So let's go ahead and try extended mode. I'm going to put one foam plug in each sub, switch over the app, and we'll do another run. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the EQs just so we can get a couple apples and apples comparisons here. And I'm going to switch modes to extended. It is important that you match the physical parameters to whatever you set in the app. You don't want to mismatch. For example, running the sub in sealed but have it in standard mode. That is no bueno. Things will sound bad, best case scenario, and you might have physical damage, worst case scenario. So both are now set as extended. Let's go back into REW, do a measurement. And I've named our two previous here just so we can keep track. We'll compare this one to the standard no EQ. So this is just changing the mode, nothing else. And we can see in this case, we got just a little bit lower total output throughout the range. Nothing you're ever going to hear. This is just a couple dB. Nobody has hearing that sensitive. And then we do have a nice little bump in extension and quite a bit down here in the sub bass, about 16. And it certainly goes a little bit lower. But at 20 here and below, you would definitely notice that. That's a 10 decibel difference here, down at 16 hertz, more than 10 decibels. So you would feel that. You're not going to hear it, but you'll feel that. Now, the downside, at least with these 4000 series, is you will sometimes hear port chuffing, and that's because we've gone from 3 open ports of air to 2, and that air is rushing out those 2 faster. And during some scenes of movies, you hear, it's called chuffing, but it just sounds nasty. It's like, blah, blah, like something's wrong. It draws your eye right to the sub because it's completely localized. It doesn't fit with the music. It doesn't fit with the bass. I hate port chuffing. So I pass on extended, even though this nice little bump here is certainly welcome. It's just a experience ruining thing for me. So extended is out. Let's try sealed. I'm going to plug all 6 ports on the subs and switch everything in the app again. We'll go to sealed on both subs and run another test. All right, now what we're looking for, remember, is the flatness. I'm not worried about the levels. We can adjust gains later on. Even though we've lost some sound pressure here, that's to be expected because we've lost the output of the ports. Is it flatter? It certainly is a little bit flatter, but it's still not perfect. We still need to fill in this area and we still need to bring down this area. But now we've changed modes. Let's see how effective the EQ controls are now in sealed mode. I'm going to turn off the extended and I'm going to turn off the standard. So this is what we're looking to correct, and I actually want to come to about where this center line is, about 70 hertz. So we're looking to bring this down and we're looking to bring this up somewhere to make it more even. We've still got over a 10 dB difference here from our peak to our low that we can hear. But look at that extension. This is why you can't make blanket statements. You look at the lab testing, this sealed is supposed to hit 20 here and just start plummeting. But it doesn't in my room. That's why you have to measure. In my room, I get the best low-end extension in sealed. Look at it even compared to extended. It's flatter and it goes lower. If I were to raise this up to match the level, this plummets and this just glides. So now we're going to turn on the EQs again. Looking good, looking real good. This filled in the area. These came down. Now remember, I've got no smoothing on. These very sharp little dips, we don't have to worry about. This one's a little wide. This one is no problem whatsoever, just like this crossover point dip. Once we turn on smoothing, I just use 1/12 because this is very indicative of do you actually have a problem or not. See, those are a lot flatter. And I could actually back off on my EQs just a little bit, and I'll do that now to see if we can improve that just a little bit. This one, this is probably centered at 64 Hertz, and I can probably bump that up a little bit to maybe 73, and we might be able to tame even the upper region here. Let me turn the no EQ off. So now this is what we're working with. I want to try to get to this average line, but if I don't do anything now, this is really, really looking good. I've got this little hump here that I like to bring down. These, not really too worried about, but you know what? Let's tweak the EQ settings. So I already know that both of these subs are reacting very close to one another. They're on the same general wall. They're not in the same spot. They're not exactly the same like they would be if they were next to each other, but they're close enough where my EQ settings are both the same. And that's working just fine. So let's see, this one, 25, 38, 66. So this one here is actually centered right about here. I'm going to bump that up another 10 Hertz and just see what happens to the curve. So I'm going to go from 66 to 76 on both of them, and that's EQ number 3. Now we'll do another quick test. I want to see what happens to that last little hump. That's all I'm looking for right now. Okay, did it come down much in comparison? Let me turn off smoothing again for the last run. Okay, so it didn't. That means that this is another room model, and pretty much no matter what we do here in the EQ, it's not going to have an effect. I would need to add more acoustic absorption in the room, and that's just not in the cards right now. I'm pretty much out of walls that the wife will approve, but that is a very minor thing. And we can see that it did flatten out this little lump here though. So I'm going to keep it where it's at because that did have a positive effect. I want to see if that looks overall flatter or not, because I may need to change how much EQ I'm giving it. It's at a better point, that's for sure. So how are we looking? Pretty much want to come to there. So we do want to come down a bit. I'm going to go back in real quick, and I'm going to do, where was I? Okay, currently those are at -6.9. Let's take it to -5. So we're not going to be cutting as much, and we'll see if we can get that whole thing a little flatter, just to start to bring it down another 5 dB or so closer to that midline. Let's see what that did for us. One-twelfth to match, and what do we get? Can turn that off. Not a whole lot, not a whole lot. So what that tells me is that room modal is so strong in the area where our EQ is now pointing that it's not having an effect further down the frequency, because the Q just isn't hitting in that area enough. The Q is how much of an area that your EQ is affecting. I don't want to widen it. I would rather keep it fairly narrow and just try bumping it down. So let's try the best of both worlds. Let's come down to 70 Hertz. Leave it at -5. And did I go the wrong way? Sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. I did go the wrong way. I was at -6.7. I wanted to go to -8, not -5. Let's do that real quick. Okay, now we have the change I was expecting. Smooth to match. Okay, there we can see it, pulled it down, and that's at 66. I've got it, it's currently at 70. So about here, and you can see it still didn't do anything right at this peak at 76. So not worried about that, but bringing the EQ down did make a difference right there. That's not terrible. That pulled this whole section down just a bit to where I was looking for. Now let's see if we can get this pulled up just a bit. That's at 37. My EQ is at 38, so that is definitely the cause of that. We want to increase that, so we're going to boost this by less. I'm going to go from negative 7.1 to 5 and see what happens. All right, that is what I was looking for. So we can delete these here just to clean up. Make sure I put on a matching. Okay, that was off. That looks really good. This little peak here, we know that's room, not worried about that. Totally fine. Everything here is pretty much within a 5 dB spread, and that's with no smoothing. Turning on smoothing. Bang. Look at that extension. This is 10 Hertz down here at the end. It's almost on par in sealed mode. And this is at negative 13 on the sub. There's plenty of gain left. I'm at 0 on the AVR. And you know, what else can you say? You can match levels by adding more sub, or you can just turn stuff up, whatever you can do in your system. But this is the power of REW and a proper measurement mic and using parametric EQs after you've done physical setup and room treatment. I'm very satisfied. I am saving a new preset and I'm going to enjoy the sound. See you guys next time.